What's going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here from gfsantos.com, and today I'm going to share with you an insight on how to shift avoidance and escapism into action. Okay, and so some context, something a lot of people suffer from or experience is wanting to escape or wanting to avoid life's many different responsibilities. Whether that's something as big as needing to make a career shift, or something as medium as filing tax returns, or even something as simple as getting up and taking out the trash, right? And so escapism, in my experience and in my own words, is that experience of you're in your head and that thought comes in your mind and it goes, all right, in your head, we got to go and do that thing, that thing that we need to do. We need to go and do it. And the knee-jerk reaction right after that thought is this sense of, this feeling that you don't want to deal with. And instead of dealing with that feeling because it's either too much or too overwhelming or too scary, instead we run towards short-term gratifications to relieve that feeling and to escape into a world of false pleasures, whether that's staying on your phone and playing video games, or smoking weed, or masturbation, or just watching TV and eating junk food, anything that can really relieve that pain. Okay, and so to start this off, what I have here is what's called the scale of emotions, or scale of consciousness. And this is just 1/3 of that scale. I'll link the full scale of emotion chart in a link below in the description. But basically, the way this works is at the bottom of the scale, you have emotions like shame, apathy, which is like this feeling of not wanting or not able to get up and do anything. And then you have fear, which I categorize as the escapism and avoidance emotions. And then right after that, you have anger and pride. And then to the top here, at least in the first third of this chart, you have courage and willingness. So the way this works is, at least according to the scales of emotion, the lower on the scale you are, the lower the vibration, and a low vibration or a low energy like shame, apathy, and fear, they don't lead towards taking action. In fact, emotions like shame, apathy, and fear lead towards a lack of action. They lead to stagnancy. They lead to escapism, which is the opposite way of action, or avoidance, which is running away, right? And so let me pause there, okay? So the tip that I want to give here is, how do we shift from these low emotion, low vibration emotions to at the very least pride and anger, and then ideally courage and willingness? How do you make that shift, right? How do you make this shift? How do you cross this? And so this is not the end all be all answer, but this is something that I use actually today to work on my tax forms, okay? So this will particularly resonate, I think, if you're a male, but I don't think it's gender specific, okay? So I was in my car and I knew that I needed to get to my tax forms, right? But that feeling inside me was one of overwhelm, and it's too big, and oh my God, I don't want to face this. And that feeling is kind of like this, or rather, it just nags at you, right? It nags at you. And metaphorically speaking, think of any responsibility, especially a big responsibility, as like this dragon, right? This dragon or this enemy that you need to face. And on the other end of facing this enemy is two potential consequences, two potential results. One is glory, right? Victory, success, slaying the dragon, right? And the other consequence is death, failure, right? And so my only assumption here is that when we escape and we avoid, what we're not wanting to face is the possibility of death, is the possibility of failure, right? Because that's like the ultimate horrible feeling, right? At least in our minds, right? But the issue is that the longer we run away, the longer that feeling, that nagging feeling in your body is going to be, right? And so there will come a time usually, and this is kind of what procrastinating is, where that nagging feeling can no longer be tolerated. And that inner knowing that facing the dragon, facing the task at hand, it must be done, right? And so the insight here to finally fucking get to it, imagine yourself at the intersection of either running away or facing your demons, pulling out this metaphorical sword, right? You're a fucking soldier, you're a fucking warrior. Pulling out your sword and being willing to fight. Being willing to fucking slay that dragon. Being willing to show up with your sword in hand, facing the dragon in the eyes and saying, bring it on. And you know what? You might fail. You might die. But it's that willingness to face the dragon, sword in hand, everything you've got, and willing to die knowing that you put yourself on the line to go for it. And it's funny because at that point, it's not even about, oh my God, I hope I win. It's more like, I am willing to stand here and give it my all. And that's it. And that's the glory in itself. That I stood there and I went for it. Right? And so, bringing it back to the scale of emotions, all right? I put anger and pride in a different color than fear, apathy, and shame because anger and pride can be used as that jolting mechanism, right? Think of like, if you've ever been in a relationship and let's say you got broken up with, right? You know that feeling of like, you know, F my ex, right? F my ex, I'm gonna prove to them that they made the wrong decision. And it's that anger, right? Like, you know, you're depressed after a breakup and it's like, you know, you're just like, oh my God, she left me. I'm poor, I suck, right? And then after some time, whether it's a little time or a long time, there comes a time where you're like, you know what? You know, you put your sorrows away and you go, F this, I'm gonna go, right? And it's that jolting energy. It's like, right? So you can utilize anger for sure. But either way, whatever you need to do, whether you use my metaphor of a sword or you find some other strategy, you may find it helpful to use this scale of emotion to understand where you're at. And, you know, if you, let's say you're down here, you now know that it is in your best interest to find a way to at least get angry or to have some pride around a situation, around a responsibility. And that will get your ass moving in an upward direction, right? This is where it really begins in terms of, you know, taking action. But ideally, you want to get to courage and willingness because this is a little more sustainable energy. You know, it's a lot less like, I'm gonna go for it, right? And more like, I got this, right? A little more calm, a little more confidence in there, a little more groundedness the higher you get up, right? Anyways, I hope that made some sense. I hope that this brought you some value in some way. You know, in my experience, weed use and like as a crutch, and escapism and avoidance, they go like hand in hand. And this channel has a large, marijuana use audience, and so hopefully this brought you some insight, some, this was enlightening in some way. And please feel free to share in the comments below your strategies for stepping out of escapism and taking action. And if you really like this video or love this video, give a thumbs up. Otherwise, guys, it is always an honor and a pleasure to share and to serve, and I hope this video did just that. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.